Hey,
Hey, everybody. How are you?
welcome, welcome, welcome. We are talking about agreements today, y'all.
What kind of agreements do you have? And you might be saying, well, you mean like contracts? Like Crystal, Dr. Nicole, what do you mean?
What do you
What do you
mean?
mean?
So, for those of you who know me, you know I did supply chain and procurement for 30 years, right? And every agreement that we had between us as a client and suppliers, we actually had a written agreement. And the agreement states what are the terms and conditions of the agreement? What are you supposed to provide? How do I hold you accountable? And what happens if you don't provide the services or goods as expected? How do we terminate the agreement? And what happens in case of a breach?
How many of you know that in every type of relationship, vendor, client relationships, boss, employee relationships, husband and wife relationships, boyfriend girlfriend relationships, mother daughter, father son, siblings, any place where you are in connection with a human, you have agreements.
Now, they may not be written down like we had in supply chain and procurement. They weren't signed. They're not written down and stored anywhere except here. They're unwritten. So how do we get to the point where we have these unwritten agreements and we don't know what they are, Dr. Nicole?
Listen, I remember specifically having a conversation with a young lady who was brilliant. She was really, really strong. Subject matter expert, amazing at her job. And we were talking because she was getting some coaching on moving up the corporate ladder and really trying to be promotable because she was so smart. And we were talking about her managing her boss. Because one of the things that she got as feedback was that she wasn't always the best at managing up. And I won't forget it. She was like, that's not my job. It is not my job to manage him. And I said, tell me more. Inquiring minds want to know. Tell me more about that. And she went down the list of the things that she's supposed to do. And I said, oh, she doesn't realize that that's an invisible ink in her employment contract.
So you've got the entire laundry list of job descriptions in your employment contract. And you know that last line that says other duties as assigned? We often forget about that one. That's where all the unwritten stuff falls.
That's where all the other things, like when we say as a department, we're going out for drinks after work, we don't care whether or not you are an alcohol drinker or not. You can drink water if you must. If you must. But we do expect that you will attend if you are part of the team. Nobody says that in an interview.
Right.
They don't say it in a contract, but there is a contract. It's an unspoken agreement. And when you usually find out that you didn't read between the lines,
is when you're in breach.
It's when you're in breach.
And we're laughing about it, but we all experience this all the time.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a disagreement with a family member
Ooh.
about whose responsibility it is to do something, right? And you've never discussed it, but you're the one that the family always expects to handle the business. You're the one that plans the trips. You're the one that takes care of everybody's needs and helps people to get into college and whatever needs to be done. If somebody passes away in your family, you're putting together the program. You're that one that's taking care of everything. And the minute you decide that somebody else needs to take responsibility,
Who told you you could decide that?
right? The minute you decide that there's something else that you need to focus on, and other people in the family can step up and do it, you quickly find out that you are in breach of the agreement. See, that agreement says you handle all the crisis situations.
That
You're
part.
the Olivia Pope of the family.
That part. And since you've always stepped up
Mm-hmm.
when Olivia was needed, we figured you agreed that that was going to be the term of the agreement.
Now, who should we blame for that?
Hmm.
Well, since we teach other people how to treat us oftentimes,
That part.
think we have to take a little responsibility ourselves.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we train other people that we are the only one that can do anything. And then we have people in our lives who we allow to train us that they can't do anything.
Oh, say that
They
one
can't be
again.
responsible for anything. They can't show up for anything. They can't, it's not their responsibility. And they train
They
us.
trained us.
You probably have some people in your office, you probably have some people in your household who have trained you. Don't bother me. Because if you bother me, it's going to be worth more. It's going to be more damage to you. It's going to cost you more time. And you've probably trained some people by saying things like, if I take time and teach you, it's going to take me longer to teach you than to just do it.
Yeah.
Ooh, how many of y'all have ever said that?
It's okay.
Right? So we do it ourselves. And by doing that, we train people that if they just stall a little bit and don't move fast enough, you'll come in and do the work. You'll come in and save the day.
So we gotta take responsibility for our part in these contractual, spoken and unspoken, unwritten and written contracts.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're actively participating, then somewhere we got to be able to say, ooh, I think I helped to create that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that look like? How do you help create it? Because often when we realize that the terms are not what we really wanted, or they don't work in our favor, or they're hurtful, or they're harmful, or they're
Mhm.
diminishing, or they cost too much, or they're not worth what they used to be, whatever the disagreement is from what has been the precedent, we struggle sometimes with understanding how we got here.
Yeah.
How did we get here? Where I always wash the dishes.
And again, you usually don't notice that there is an unwritten agreement until you're in breach and you're feeling a little overwhelmed or exhausted, or you feel like you've been being treated unfairly and you don't understand how you got in this situation.
Mhm.
That's when it's time to sit down and think about, how did we get here? What were my actions? What were their actions? What's our history? What are our patterns? If you look at the patterns in your relationships, it is a clue finder for the terms and conditions of the relationships. Some of you have destructive, traumatic relationships with no termination clause. No
I,
termination clause.
I think what she's saying is you don't have no exit strategy. You have no way of leaving. You're in it forever in that context because you were not in some way fully at the negotiating table to say, well, this sounds good. However, in the circumstance where other elements change, what does it look like to renegotiate the terms? When you don't have that, people start to assume, like I said, that you will be on dish duty
Forever.
until Jesus comes back.
Even when you move out.
Even when
just
you
come
move
back
out,
and
just
wash the
come back
dishes.
and wash the
Hey,
dishes.
Dominique.
Even when you're gone, just come back and do laundry. Even
Yes.
when, right? Unwritten agreement with college students and their parents.
Oh,
Funniest
I'm
thing.
just going to come home and bring all
my
laundry.
I'm going to use all your detergent. I'm going to use all your fabric softener.
I'm not going to wash clothes the whole semester.
I'm going to eat all your food while I'm watching clothes. I'm going to dominate your television and remote control while I'm washing clothes. And then I am going to dry all of them.
And then when I leave, I'm going to take all your toiletries and your socks and your towels and everything, right?
And parents, you hear them is so cute. Because they're like, do you think you can just come in here? And they're like, yeah, I do this all the time.
That's our agreement.
I'm in med school now. I've been doing this since undergrad. Oh, correction. I've been doing this since I was born. You were washing my clothes then.
Yes.
And once I shifted to washing my own clothes, I still used all your products, all your snacks, all your energy, and all of your equipment. I don't understand the problem. What's the problem?
That's our agreement.
That's our agreement. And you're like, that is not our agreement. And they're like, show me the evidence that is not our agreement. Where's the evidence? Do you take my stuff out of the washer wet, put it in a bag and say, oh, wrong washer?
No.
We've been doing this for years. But there's hope. There's hope.
There is definitely hope. Listen, every agreement can be renegotiated.
Every single one.
If it's not working, either we terminate it or we renegotiate it. People forget about that option. We can always renegotiate our unwritten agreements when they no longer serve our best good, right?
Yep.
So if you have a relationship with someone who you love, but they are, let's say, always telling your business, maybe you need a confidentiality clause in your agreement, which means you need to go back to that person and say, listen, every time I tell you something, it comes back to me from somebody else. Do you understand that my expectation of you is that when I tell you something, it remains confidential? Did you know that that was a term of our agreement?
And they'll say, well, you didn't say it was confidential.
You didn't say I couldn't tell nobody. Oh, well, let me be very clear. From this point forward, there is a clause in our agreement that says you cannot share my business without my permission, and I will reciprocate that with you. And if you breach that, if I I find out or if I hear from somebody else that you have told my business, then we may need to terminate this agreement.
Tough stuff, because here's what we often do: we complain without an understanding that there are other options on the table.
Yes.
Renegotiating an agreement is actually pretty normal. If it brings about a conflict, it's okay. Contrary to popular belief, conflict is positive. Conflict is positive. Does not have to be a negative thing.
Absolutely.
So when you find, wow, I've stepped into a role at work, the role I've stepped into, I do all of the work. No one has to give me any of the credit, and they can all act like they did it. When I figure out that's not working for me because my self-worth has gone up, because my self-compassion has gone up, because I now understand that there's no equity in that, I now have to go to some of the people that I work with and just share with them, I'm shifting.
And I need some clarity. Here's what I thought the agreement was, but this is what I am currently experiencing. What do you think the agreement is? You know, I posted today, we had a conversation earlier, and one of the aha moments was lack of clarity is extremely expensive. It costs us. And money is not the only currency.
Nope.
It costs us time, which is often our greatest commodity. It costs us emotions. It costs us relationships, because how many people have you terminated from your life without even discussing the agreement? Right? They thought one thing, you thought something else, and you got hurt. They breached it, you got hurt, and you just cut them off. Right? Without understanding what parts of that contract you wrote in and what parts they wrote in. So we always have the opportunity to go back and clarify what the agreement really is.
Yep.
What's my part? What's your part? What does success look like for us? And if something should happen, what are the terms? Because if we understand that, you know, one of the things we say to each other all the time is, if I get out of line in any way, because we're business partners, we work together every single day. So we clarify with one another, listen, my intentions are good. I want nothing but the best for you, nothing but the best for this partnership. But I'm not perfect and I make mistakes. Should I make a mistake, I just need you to call it to my attention and give me the opportunity to self-correct. That's in our agreement, right? Give me a curing period. It's called a curing period in procurement and supply chain, right? Give me a curing period to try and fix this before you give me the boot, before you terminate. So maybe, you know, you need to go back and look at those relationships where you just gave them the boot. And maybe if you'd given them a little curing period, you would have been able to maintain that relationship. So we got to look at those agreements. And if you want to have some fun, just write down the people closest to you that you have the most contact with on a daily basis. Could be your boss, your coworker, your husband, your wife, your children, your friends.
Add a glass of wine.
That's maybe some Tanqueray or some Hennessy or some Ciroc.
Add something. Because when you look at the list, you're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute.
And you start thinking about it, like, what is our agreement? What have I taught them? How have I taught them to treat me? And what do I accept from them? What have we agreed to in this relationship? And think about the pain points.
Yeah.
How did we get there? How did these terms and conditions evolve to this point? And what are our patterns? And just kind of write it down.
Yeah.
And then use the opportunity to renegotiate where
And
necessary.
have the necessary conversations. And for some of you, you may be sitting here now and saying, okay, I got the list. I can make the list of people. I got the wine. My problem is 3 of the people, I think I've got grounds for renegotiation because I think we have a misunderstanding.
Mhm.
But Crystal, there are 2 people on the list. I made the agreement that they are working by.
Mm,
I agreed. But I now have boundaries.
mm,
I now am moving in purpose. I am speaking my truth.
yeah,
What I agreed to then made all the sense in the world, but it doesn't fit now.
yeah,
So like, I don't know what to do. Here's where we always stand. What's most important is you being authentic.
yes,
If you are not growing, you are dying.
absolutely.
So, this context that we are supposed to be in this negotiated agreement forever and nothing changes is a little strange because you're always changing.
Right. And so are they.
And so are they. So when it gets to the point where you feel like, wow, it made sense that we set it up this way in our relationship.
Back in 1980.
15, 1915, 1860,
Right.
right? It made sense. I take responsibility for that. But what I'm also saying as an empowered being in this conversation is that something different needs to occur. Now, here are the things that I would like to see changed. Do you have any things that you would like to see changed? Because it's a negotiated agreement, a fair, hopefully, it's a fair exchange without robbery. You're getting some things, I'm getting some things. We're working for the greatest good of whoever our target audience is, our marriage, our children, our brand, our customer, whoever those people are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good faith effort that we are putting this good faith effort in because of the focus area. So we get to say, 15 years ago, it made all the sense in the world. And if you feel like you are totally going in a different direction, you can say, and I apologize.
That's the power stance. Acknowledging that you helped write this agreement.
Yeah, I apologize, but I need some of the terms
Amended.
tweaked, amended, changed. Not doing that, the problem with not doing that is it brings about unfair judgment.
Yep.
It brings about resentment. It brings about a lack of clarity because now you're seeing everything through the lens of why do I have to always wash the dishes? Now you agreed to that at one point, but things have changed. So now you see everything through that angry filter versus saying, wow, things have changed. And it's okay. Come together, we can come up with something that works for all empowered parties.
Yeah.
If we don't, what likely happens is we diminish the relationship to the point of no return. And then we have to eject ourselves, or we try to eject the other person because we don't know what else to do.
And this works on the positive side too, you all, right? There were a lot of times in procurement where we would hire a supplier for one thing and they did such an amazing job that we would amend the agreement to add additional services or goods because they were so reliable. They did such a good job. They provided great quality. So there are some relationships where we may want to amend agreements to take the relationships to the next level, right? Or to grow, do things differently. So it is quite okay to also say, hey, this has been really good, but I think I need a little bit more in this relationship. I appreciate this, and this, and I see this, and because of that, I'd like to take this relationship to another level, or I would like a promotion, or I would like a different job description. I would like to move to a different department because I really like working here. I see opportunity for myself. So there are always opportunities for us to advocate for ourselves in relationships with an amendment.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I think is really cool about that is if you recognize that often when you've thought of all of that, the other person probably hasn't, right? So, in consideration of good faith and mutual respect, you share and then you breathe and you say, I know that this might be new information, or it might be a lot of information, or, my intention is to come to mutual agreement. So if it's okay, I would like to give you some time to consider what I've been thinking about. Can we come back to the conversation with anything that you might like, or with your thoughts or feedback on what I've said?
Powerful.
Because remember, you want both parties to feel like we have a consensus. Absolutely. Not you won and I lost. Sometimes the mutual amendment and negotiation is, I can live with the change of this term this way. I can live with, instead of always, I can live with sometimes. I can live with 3 times. I can live with on Saturdays, right? When what you wanted was Saturday and Sunday. What you wanted was 5 days. But now, as you've talked about it, you're like, you know what? I'm going from no days to 3 days. That makes sense to me.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. That makes sense to me. So here's the thing. It's being clear that these agreements are everywhere.
Always an opportunity. And remember what Dr. Nicole said, conflict is often a very good thing.
It's a good thing.
It brings to light some opportunities to renegotiate the agreement.
Yep. Necessary. I'm renegotiating with my puppy right now.
I know who holds the power seat in that conversation.
Listen, he is of the opinion that he is human. And I've done some things to negotiate an agreement with him that he is human. He's not a dog. So now, because of some of his behaviors, I have to do something different.
Y'all pray for.
I'm going to need a whole lot of prayer.
Baby said, did he get shaved?
Listen, but
we hope not.
We hope not. But again, it's funny, but it's so real because our lawn people, we've got agreements with them. Our grocery folks that help us at the grocery store, we've got agreements with them. Our folks on our jobs, we've got agreements with them. Family, it's now time to take inventory.
You know what I just thought about?
What?
Have you ever signed up for a new app? Right? You go to the app store, or I don't know what the app store is called on a Droid, but you go out there and you get a new app, right? And before you can download the app, they're like, "Do you agree to our
the
terms and conditions?" And you say, "Yeah." You don't even read them because you're like, "Just give me the damn app, right? I just want to download the app." So you just hit click, yes, go, right? That agreement is probably about 500 pages long. And you don't find out that you don't agree to one of those terms until something happens. Relationships are exactly the same way. When you are in relationship, in connection with somebody, there's this little checkbox that you've checked and downloaded that relationship, right? And you don't know what's on those 500 pages in the cloud somewhere. What we are telling you is it's time to download it from the cloud.
Yeah.
Look at it, evaluate, is this working for me?
Mm-hmm.
Is it still serving me, making me, do I still feel good about it? Is it something that I can still maintain? Do I feel comfortable maintaining this for the long term? And if not, bring the person to the table for renegotiation.
Yeah. And you won't regret it.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. When you are agreed, you can walk together in harmony. When you are not agreed, it is like the right foot walking forward and the left foot walking backwards. And it has a tipping point.
Yes.
It has a point where when, both feet have a functionality of walking and movement.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're moving in opposite directions, there comes a point where you can't go any further, and you're distended and stretched, and now you're in pain and you're feeling it.
Yeah.
No need to get to that point.
Leaders, what's your agreement with your team, with your employees? There's one thing, there's the written contractual job description, and then there's the unwritten terms that you set up with the team. What do people get rewarded for? What do people get acknowledged for? What do people not get held accountable for? Because other people are watching, and it's creating an agreement whether you know it or not. So here's your opportunity to renegotiate. And if you enjoyed this conversation, these are the kind of things we talk about, right? With Crystal and Dr. Nicole. These are the conversations we talk about in our tribe.
Yeah.
And we invite all of you to join us at our next Woman Unlimited Live. You can see the details in the comments as well as in our bios. It just dropped in. We have one coming up very soon. So please register. We would love to continue this conversation, but we talk about some really relevant topics that help you to unbind and unleash your unlimited potential. So we're Crystal and Dr. Nicole, and it's been our pleasure.
Yes, and we will see you at Woman Unlimited Live.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.